Monday, 15th of January 2024, and thank you so much for joining us on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. It's a happy new week to you, and we are keeping all those positive vibes, fully knowing that you are also positive. And I'm your host, Nelson Zulu. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm joined by my colleague, Miriam Kaimba.
Good morning, Nelson.
Good morning.
How is your Monday?
My Monday is okay because I can safely confirm that we've had a week that has been ramped up with sports activities. We know there's...
I know you're a soccer fan.
Exactly. There's an ongoing AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire, and I've been following proceedings from the time the tournament opened. That was on a Saturday, Sunday, and hoping that even...
In your own analysis, how do you think the games are going so far?
The games so far are going so far so good. Although I was disappointed in terms of the officiating for Mozambique and Egypt. I don't think the other goal that was given to the penalty that was given to Egypt was supposed to be a penalty, because, well, I didn't see anything being a penalty there, but it is what it is.
Anyway, that is Nelson's opinion. Anyway, a lovely good morning once again to you, our viewers. This is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, where on Mondays and Tuesdays we always focus on the community aspect, and we are both your hosts, Miriam Kaimba as well as Nelson Zulu. But anyway, before we get into looking at what we are going to be discussing this morning with regards to cholera, as well as we'll be joined by a prominent guest this morning in studio, is going to help us, discuss various issues pertaining to water and sanitation, as well as the ongoing cholera issues that we're trying to fight as the country. But right about now, let's get direct into our health corner and just see what the doctors have for us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to today's segment on the Health Corner on Camnet Breakfast Show. Today, we are going to talk about cholera. My name is Dr. Nakubia Namfaya. So like I have said, this week, we're going to be talking about cholera. We're going to discuss what cholera is, how one can get cholera, and we'll also discuss the symptoms, the signs and symptoms of cholera, and also how it is treated and how you can prevent cholera in our homes and in our communities. So today I want to discuss what is cholera. So cholera is an acute diarrheal disease that is caused by a bacteria called Vibrio cholerae. What does that mean? It means that it's a disease that causes one to have diarrhea. It causes diarrhea in a person who has been infected by the bacteria. So it is caused by a bacteria. A bacteria is a germ that one gets to ingest, and it enters into the system and goes into the intestines. So once it gets into the intestines, it causes loss of water from the body, so you have severe diarrhea, and that can lead to someone having dehydration and even death if it's not treated. The WHO estimates that about 1.3 million to 4 million people get cholera every year. And of those people, 21,000 to about 143,000 people die from cholera every year. So this disease is of great concern in so many countries, and Zambia is no exception. We have had a number of cases in the past. We had an epidemic in 2017 to 2018 that claimed so many lives. And just this year, early in April, we also had some cases being reported in parts of Zambia. So it's important that we know what cholera is and how we can prevent ourselves from getting cholera. Now, like I have said, cholera is an acute diarrheal disease. So cholera is a very common disease, and there's usually outbreaks in many parts of Zambia, especially during the rain season. Like we are already in the rain season right now. It's important that we protect ourselves and put measures to prevent ourselves from getting cholera, because it can claim so many lives and it kills very fast. So we need to understand how we can prevent it and how we can treat it if one is found to have cholera. So this week, this is what we're going to be discussing. We'll discuss the symptoms tomorrow. So be sure to tune in to tomorrow's program as well, so that you can be able to learn more about the symptoms of cholera. And even in the subsequent days, stay tuned to Camnet TV and learn how you can prevent cholera. Thank you so much for watching.
Indeed, what is cholera? It is very important to understand and know what exactly is cholera and how to prevent this waterborne disease. But anyway, this morning we are looking at all issues surrounding to cholera. Like we said, that this entire month we'll be looking at various issues pertaining to how we can prevent ourselves from cholera, and just practicing good hygiene out there. Let's get direct now into our money market.
And our money market this morning, the United States dollar is buying at 25.89 ngwe, selling at 26.40 ngwe. The euro is buying at 28.38 ngwe and selling at 28.94 ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 1.39 ngwe and selling at 1.14 ngwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 33.01 ngwe and selling at 33.66 ngwe. And this is according to the time that it was updated at 7:21 this morning. Remember that these exchange rates, they vary from bank to bank, and the main concern has been on the side of the United States dollar, because everyone is actually feeling the impact of what is happening to the dollar, because we've seen that it continues to surge. Yeah, it is even trying by all means to reach 27.
We have seen that the kwacha has experienced, persistence reduction in its value relative to major convertibles such as the United States dollars. But anyway, like we said, we hope for the best. We have seen that we're not performing very good, and with some few cents there, we will be going toward 27.
Yeah, there's only like 20 ngwe that's left for us to clock almost 27 kwacha in terms of the selling part and everything.
Quite interesting this morning. Yesterday we did see government announcing that they will be closing down some bars in Kanyama compound and other cholera hotspot. I know this is going to be a very huge impact, especially on those into such business, because we're talking about how long, first of all, are they closing their business. We are looking at that period and how this is going to affect them, because we understand that this is how they generate their income. And I don't know, we pray that at the end of the day we can see certain mechanisms that can be put in place to avoid shutting down more businesses.
Yeah. Indeed, I think that was one of the concerns, but I do remember there was also prior information that was given by the local government and Rural Development Ministry to say you as traders yourselves in markets or these pubs or trading places, ensure that by all means you put in mechanisms that are just going to ensure that you have a safe environment. Because I've also seen the same step being taken in Chibombo. For instance, Chibombo Town Council made a communique yesterday to say some trading places are going to be shut. And for this regard, I'm also sure of 10 Miles area as one of the areas that has been affected in terms of nightclubs, pubs, as well as markets, in terms of them trading in an open place, especially those that are dealing in foodstuff. But one might wonder to say, is closing down businesses the solution? But, well, it is the solution in one way or the other, so long as those that are involved in the business are not willing to comply with what has been put there. I think it could be one of the major steps to take, because remember that also the breeding ground for cholera has been the fact that we leave food exposed to flies, and that is something that is concerning. So in one way or the other, government has got the mandate of ensuring that lives are protected.
Exactly, and we did see saying that the process will be part of the implementation of the new statutory instrument SI number 5 of 2014 that restricts public gathering of more than 5 people. So not only are they going to shut down various bars in Kanyama compound, but also the gathering of more than 5 people will not be permitted. But anyway, let's get just direct into zooming in some of the stories that made headlines in our news over the weekend. We did see a story of a man of Lusaka's Mutendere Township who is appealing for help in form of a job to enable him feed his wife and children. Kenneth Mutonga, 50, says he has been jobless ever since a company he was working for closed down in 2018, and his wife Violet Piri says life has become unbearable as the family survives on 1 meal a day from a small business. Let's get to look at that story.
A family of Lusaka's Mtendere Township is appealing for help in form of a job to be able to feed their children and take them to school. 50-year-old Mtonga Kennedy says he has been jobless for about 6 years after a company he was working for closed down in 2018. He tells this journalist that efforts to find a new job have not been fruitful and that he is willing to do any kind of work that will earn him a living.
2018, 6 years. Tamea pitapa. Pamena chito ina sinira. So na esa kusakira. Manchito yanivuta. Kampani muwantu chape yanivuta chito. So nipempako wali yense wameanga pezeke kuna chito. Ya garden boy batiriko na license. Wenza kumamoto ka automatiki omeariko na chifunda ngantandize konda vuto yapitilira mukazi wanga vutika pamoja na bana tonse tavutika maningi.
And his wife, Violet Piri, says life has become unbearable as the family survives on 1 meal a day from her small business. The house they live in belongs to the parents of the wife, who are now demanding for a small payment per month.
Not kwa pasa vama hala afuniko mta sevens utapezindrama utatia chive chako afuniko kudia tukuta yao not kwa pasa vama hala va sevens mapasa kile nchito va sevens basungire mu bana wao kapele bangapeleke kuna bana wao ku college.
Suzio Piri is one family member who has seen it all and narrates how the family has been struggling over the years.
Hapa nabwera kumunzira stiye nabwera ndabo ikale socha futi nabwera pa ndabo kuti ikale socha so mwene wakambira wangozo vanhu va mulungu ngati vivi vawaona mwe vatitamba please njito ifunika sembe vaganizira ku vanhu va mulungu Iwanga pasio kapeani motoka, kapeani ukadeni boy, bakazisebenza. Notika situma china njara zona sichapwi.
Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
A quite sad story there indeed. That is Mr. Kennedy Mutonga, 50, who is appealing to well wishers to come on board and assist him because he has been jobless since 2018, ever since the company that he was working for was closed down. We understand that, you know, majority of people, Nelson, have been affected in such ways. Henceforth, you know, that is most of the times that you know, despite, you know, being in formal employment, we have seen various people, stakeholders rather, calling on, you know, various people in this form of employment to have just something else that they can be doing, so that in an event, you know, such a calamity happens, you're not entirely stranded. Yeah, indeed, those are some of the measures that government has also been promoting to inculcate rather in people, especially the citizens, that you see, you need to secure your life. You just don't need to rely on that job that you have, but you need to have a side hustle that's going to make you earn a little and ensure that at the end of it all, when things, you just say, okay, I think I'm done, I'm in my evening days, you also have something that you get to look at. Yeah, but let's move on and get also to look at a story where Zambia yesterday recorded 431 new cholera cases, and this came to light during the daily cholera updates in Lusaka. Minister of Health Thiwa Masego says 11 deaths were also recorded, and she says government will evoke statutory instrument number 79 of 2017, which prohibits funeral gatherings of more than 5 people for cholera dates, among other restrictions. We also get to look at a story where government in Kasempa district of Northwestern Province has begun the sinking of industrial boreholes in line with government's policy of providing self-potable water source and sanitation facilities to all citizens. Kasempa District Town Council Chairperson Dr. Brian Kakonkonya says the solar-powered water reticulation systems are being installed in areas experiencing water challenges. We get to look at that story and we'll be back on the other side.
In the last 24 hours countrywide, I want to inform you that we have recorded 431 new cases. This is slightly lower than yesterday, when we recorded 452 cases. These new cases are from 6 provinces and they're distributed as follows. 381 Lusaka province, 31 in Central province, 1 in Eastern province, 12 in Southern province, 1 in Northwestern province, and 5 in the Copperbelt province. The good news is that Western province, Northern province, and Mchinga have recorded 0 new cases as of today, in the last 24 hours. Allow me at this stage to give the details of this statutory instrument. The area SI number 79 of 2017 measures were introduced so that and we allowed public health professionals to dispose of the body of a person who died from cholera in conformity with public health regulations. Other measures that are invoked with statutory instrument 79 include, among others, 1, prohibition of funeral gatherings of more than 5 people if the person being buried from had died of cholera. 2, a person who becomes aware or has reason to suspect that another person has died or is suffering from cholera shall immediately inform the nearest authorized officer in a local authority or public health facility. 3, authorized officers may enter any premises to search for a case of cholera or to inquire if there is a case of cholera. 4, authorized officers may prohibit or restricts trading in or vending of food in unsanitary conditions, leading to the closure of the premises.
Okay. So, Director.
Communities. This project is actually solar powered with the 10,000 liter tank. But obviously, if there is room for expansion, depending on the demand, we'll definitely have to expand to a bigger, or just add another storage in terms of water capacity, so that as many places as possible to get this water. So this one has got 3 water points. There's one water point, but this side I think about 50 meters? 100 meters. So 100 meters going this side, 100 meters going this side, and 100 meters going this side. Unlike having one borehole with a hand pump. Yeah. So this we thought is actually going to serve our communities better, and this suits perfectly well with the presidential pronouncement of providing clean water to the communities. And I think we are in line with what the president desires. Absolutely. And we are walking his talk as his people.
Yes. Government is there to create a conducive environment so that the technocrats and everybody else put up measures to stop a repetition of what has been happening, especially with waterborne diseases. And so it is such facilities that are taken care of adequately well, because they mean well, meaning that we're stopping some of those issues to come because measures have been put in place. Government's role is to create an environment and to supplement the budget that is being started by, from a small note, government chips in to help, so that we have clean environment, we have clean water, so that we don't have all these outbreaks.
This is the state of the sewer network in Lusaka's Kaunda Square Stage 1, amid the cholera outbreak which has claimed over 270 lives in the country. The historical sewage overflow in the area has many affected Sawasawa Road. Some residents spoken to have wondered how the sewage challenge has been left unresolved for many years.
Initially we've had this problem for close to 2 months to 3 months. I think you can see, and we've got children, so apparently we've had this problem for a long time. And you see we've got a problem of cholera now. So I think the government should try and help us in any way.
So what I'm trying to illustrate is the condition of this Sawasawa Road, Kaunda Square Stage 1. These sewers, they are sewering too much.
Monari Ward 38 Councillor Mirupi Lubasi, however, says his office, in collaboration with the area member of parliament, have commenced measures to address the challenge.
Yes, so the measures that were put in place, since we have had this problem, as you are aware, the last 3 months, we are trying to replace the squatting toilets with the sitting toilets. That we have done. So now, we're just waiting. We wrote a letter. Our MP is working on it. We want Lusaka to come and replace the small pipes, the small system, because we have small pipes, so that we can put the bigger pipes.
With President Hakainde Hichilema Tuesday expressing the need to find a lasting solution to the cholera situation, especially in Lusaka, these are areas of concern which needs attention. For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
Introducing Kapi Lodges Kafiwe, a beautiful place to spend your night. At Kapi Lodges, we have affordable and comfortable rooms to meet your expectations. We are located along Kafue Road, Shimabala area. For more details, contact us on +260 979 476307 or +260 976 057123 or +260 764 700 003. Email capilodges@gmail.com. Capi Lodges, my second comfort, home.
Cholera is still a global threat to human health in developing countries, Zambia being one of them. We now transition into our first interview this morning, where we're joined by Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation, Honorable Mike Mpocha, who is going to help us discuss various issues pertaining to improving access to water. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're glad to have you on set this morning, Honorable.
Thank you for having me.
Having you indeed.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you.
To begin with, improving water access in order to combat cholera. What are some of the mechanisms that government is putting in place, given the fact that we continue recording these high cases of cholera currently?
Okay, thank you once again for according me this opportunity to just share with our citizens the various interventions that the government is putting in place to ensure universal access to water as well as sanitation. The government has rolled out various projects to ensure that we, as much as possible, provide water supply as close as possible to our citizens. In all the provinces, we have bigger projects that we are doing just to see that also we respond to the population growth. Over time, our population of Zambia has been growing, but with much less resources being allocated to the sector to respond to the population growth. So with the population growth, you have new emerging communities that require water supply, that require sanitation provision. So because of that, we had to roll out a number of projects, but in there also we had to prioritize a number of projects that were started prior to the 2021 elections, but due to lack of funding, most of them had stalled. So we had to mobilize the resources to put into finishing those projects. And I have very quickly, just on top of my head, Kaputa water supply project, which I restored as soon as I was appointed minister. The president directed me that we must run and try to mobilize resources and finish off those projects. So we quickly finalized the Kaputa project, and it was commissioned. The people of Kaputa, at least the CBD of Kaputa, they are receiving clean water. We had found another project which had stored in Chinsali. We quickly mobilized the resources, finished off that project. In Osaka, there was another project for Iolanda 2 pipeline, which is Kafue Bao. Again, we mobilized resources, completed, and His Excellency the President, Mr. H. Lema, commissioned that project in 2022. We are at a point of almost completing the Kafulafuta water supply project, which will enhance water supply in Ndola, Masaiti, Mpongwe, as well as Luansha. This project is nearing 99.5% completion, and this will also help the people of Ndola and the other mentioned districts to improve water supply. Now, we also have the small town integrated water supply projects in various provinces, including northern, Luapula, and as well as western province. Most of these projects are almost complete, and once they are completed, they will enhance water supply. Now, in addition to these major projects, every year my ministry allocates boreholes to various districts, various constituencies. All this again is meant to ensure that water provision is enhanced in rural areas, in peri-urban areas, as well as in urban areas. So this year alone, we are working on more than 500 boreholes around the country. We are also working on piped water schemes, and this is where you, like the one you are watching in, was it Kasemba, the clip before we came on air? That is a piped water scheme where you drill a borehole, put an elevated tank, connect it to solar, equip it with solar, and then you put several, points where people can access water. In addition to the water supply component, we are also working on the sanitation component, because water supply goes alongside with sanitation, and I think the sanitation aspect is one which for many years has been silent and yet very important. And the President has, since the creation of this ministry, the President has been putting emphasis that we must not leave sanitation alone. Now, I want our viewers and your colleagues to understand that the challenge is still huge, because currently we are only sitting at 72% in terms of water coverage, the whole country. In terms of sanitation, we are sitting at 54%. Again, unfortunately, in terms of non-revenue water, we are sitting around 52%. So basically, we are producing so much water to go around, only to lose it around 52% because of the old infrastructure in terms of network, most of which was only constructed in the 70s, both in terms of water network but also sanitation network. So you always have these leakages. So these are some of the interventions that we are putting in place, but in addition to that, we are also constructing dams. Again, this is one activity that we are pushing up, considering the problems that we are facing of climate change. So we have to make sure that we construct dams around the country, so that we make water available for irrigation, we make water available for livestock watering, to some extent also for wildlife.
Yeah, and speaking on the issue of the cholera outbreak, we've seen some stakeholders, especially those in the political sector, speculate that the outbreak of this disease can be partially attributed to the closing of the Yolanda plant between September and November last year. Is that the current step from the ministry's point of view?
Thank you for raising this question. It will kind of give me an opportunity to put things in perspective. Again, it's very unfortunate that people always want to find a fault, but far from it. First of all, Lusaka has a demand of 480,000 cubic meters per day. If you like, 480 million liters per day. That's what we need to supply water to the whole Lusaka. At a time before we shut down the Yolanda 1 network, we were sitting on only 306,000 cubic meters per day capacity, supply capacity. So when you look at this, we had a deficit of 174,000. If you do your maths there, I hope I'm correct. we had a deficit of about 174,000 cubic meters, about 174 million liters a day. Now let's go to the Yolanda one problem we had. We had a big leakage there, which we called Navoye leakage around Navoye, where over the years water was being lost in huge quantities. This is treated water. So you treat this water, you abstract this water from Kafue River, you treat it, and you start pumping using high cost in terms of energy. 2 kilometers along the network, there's a rupture, you are losing this water. Now, you're not talking about 1, 2, 3 liters. You're talking about 10 million liters per day being lost at that leakage. 10 million liters at a point when this matter was brought to my attention. So I went on the ground, we assessed, and our engineers ascertained that we are losing around 10 million liters. So we went back to the office, had several conversations in terms of what we are going to do. It was a very complicated repair works because the rupture was at a bend where this is a big pipe. It's not a small pipe. This is a big pipe constructed in the 70s, and at that bend where we had a rupture, it was reinforced with concrete, so meaning it was buried in a concrete. Okay, so again, these were in the middle of hills where you had to create access for the equipment to go there, to break, to access the rupture. Now, we had to ensure that before we announced our intention to close, we needed to procure what we thought was going to be necessary for those repairs. Remember that we had not opened this pipe because of the complication around. If we had opened, it was going to take more than the time that we had requested, the 60 days. So fast forward, we opened up that point at a time that we were shutting down. Unfortunately, the leakage had worsened, that we are losing around 17 to 20 million liters of water per day. So first of all, in terms of loss of revenue, because this is water in which we've already spent a lot of money to pump, to treat, was too much. Secondly, we needed this water, 20 million liters per day, to add to our daily demand so that we supply to the people. Fortunately, our engineers worked day and night, and that problem was resolved under 30 days. And as we speak, this has enhanced our supply. The repair works that we conducted has actually increased our supply capacity to about 320 million liters from the 306 million liters per day. And at a time when we have this outbreak, we needed this kind of water to ensure that as many people as possible have water. Now, the cholera outbreak cannot be attributed to that shutdown. That shutdown has actually helped us to improve supply. What you must look at, and this is where I want to appeal to you, our colleagues from various media houses. First of all, to thank you that you've been there, you've stood by us through the various sectors, Ministry of Health, local government, Ministry of Water. Let us go out and continue putting up correct messages, but also show the people what is on the ground. For example, I'm happy you showed that clip in Kaunda Square, which is in my constituency, about the sewer spillage. That is very good. We need to show people that. Go into Kanyama, go and show the drainages, go and show the filthy, go and show how people are dumping waste all over. Now, all this build up about people blocking the drainages because they are throwing refuse in the drainages, the lawlessness that existed before 2021 elections, where we just allowed everybody to trade where they want to be in the streets where there are no toilets. And each time government, through Minister of Local Government, has said, let's move the vendors, we begin to bring up political undertones. But this is where we are now. Because of the filthy, people are trading in places where there are no toilets, and these are not designated trading places. when they want to answer the call of nature, they have to use shaky parts and they throw them in the drainages. All this filth is building up flies, maggots, and these flies have no boundaries. You know, they'll move from there to go and settle on your food, and they're transmitting diseases. Another problem there, another source of cholera. So you can't attribute it to one point alone. We know that consumption of compromised quality of water or contaminated water will lead to high diarrhea cases, but in this case also cholera. We know that buying foodstuffs from open places, food which is not properly covered or taken care of, will lead to cholera, and many other, the poor hygiene, not washing your hands properly, and if you touched surfaces that are contaminated, you're going to pass on the germs. Consuming foodstuffs that are not properly cleaned, and many other can lead to the situation we are in. So it's not really one point that because there was a shutdown and this is what caused this. Like I've said, that shutdown, the successful repairs that we did on Ireland One network have actually helped us to ensure that we have actually more water coming into Lusaka.
One aspect, that, Honorable Minister, that you have mentioned is how various individuals in our communities are fond of dumping waste in drainages. But have we seen government coming on board with various means of raising awareness so that people understand, especially given the fact that we are in this pandemic era?
Yeah, it's one thing to raise awareness, and we've been doing this. And I say this because of my privileged position, having also served in the council for 5 years, as a councillor for 5 years, as deputy mayor, and also as mayor of Lusaka. These are issues that from way back we've been grappling with to sensitize people. But I think the problem is that in most of our communities, people have grown up in these environments, and to really suddenly try to change them, it's a tall order. I was raised, I grew up partly when I came into Lusaka from the village, when I was around grade 5, grade 6. I went straight into Kaunda Square community, stage 1, where you are showing those, the sewer spillage. So I was raised from that community, and I know from the time I was around 25 years, I was an activist as a young man to try and plead with communities that we must keep clean. We had even introduced keeping Munali clean to collect garbage. At one point when Honorable Sonny Mlenga was Member of Parliament, was my MP, I was youth chairman from Nali. I was the anchor of that program, and I saw SP Mlenga spend a lot of his personal money, brought in a contractor called Agent Contractors, paid personal money to remove mountains of garbage in Kaunda Square, because he asked me, what can I do for the people of Nara? I said, in Kaunda Square, let's sort out the garbage. He says, okay, I'll run with it. I'll put money there. He put personal money, moved mountains of garbage, not heaps. I'm talking about mountains of garbage that had built up over the years. As soon as we cleared these mountains, these historical mountains of garbage, people went about and dumping again, and we had to be going around literally picking up fights with people. Why are you doing this? We've just spent a lot of money to clear the community. And they said, look, what are you telling us? We've always lived like this. And this is the problem that is there of we've always lived like this. Why do you want to change us? Now, the awareness messages have been there from the council, from various stakeholders, even at a level, even before I went in the council that time, I've just illustrated what we do in Munali. Now, I'll come to the problem that you showed there, which is also connected to this issue. Indiscriminate dumping of refuse everywhere, in the country, is the issue of the mind, because most of the Zambians, when they just go across in Zimbabwe, they go to Namibia, they go to Botswana, just crossing the border, the mindset changes and says, here you can't dump. Now, what is it that allows them to dump refuse here in this country? And you're not just talking about people with maybe average understanding or average exposure. You're even talking about someone who is driving, a nice car with a good family. One time I was driving on Great East Road near Chinam, and there was a Toyota Hilux in front of me, and this guy was drinking and driving, drinking Casolite. At some point, he just opens the window after he finished drinking and threw the bottle. So I flashed it for him. Then he even challenges me, says, hey, what's wrong? Give me this gesture, what's wrong? Like he didn't do anything wrong. So I overtook him and he stopped him, and then the wife was pleading with me, oh no, we are really sorry. I said, look, you are a gentleman, seated with your wife, you are driving, and you're even drinking while he's driving, first of all. Secondly, you have the audacity to just swing the bottle through the window. Now, if a gentleman like that who is driving can behave like that, what about an ordinary citizen in the compound? And I think this is where the problem is. Let's connect it to the clip that you showed there. What is the problem in terms of sewer? First of all, the sanitation network everywhere, including in Kaunda Square, if you don't disturb it by throwing undesirable things there, it will flow without being disturbed. There you've shown a clip where there's a sewer spillage. Go and talk to the people that are every day unblocking those manholes. Ask them what they're finding in those sanitation networks. Even those people that you are interviewing and saying, Stizi Banchito and Machita must be ashamed, because each time that we are unblocking, our people are unblocking those manholes, the things that they find there, they find the cooking sticks, they find the scrubbing stones. How do you expect a stone, a scrubbing stone? Toilet, how do you expect it to be carried in the sanitation network? And you want to blame a minister, you want to blame your councillor, and that's where the problem is. The communities will always want to find someone to blame for their own wrongdoing. The network has been provided for you. You are throwing, instead of paying for disposal waste, because what the council has done in all these communities, they have put community-based enterprises, small companies that are collecting refuse. And the people are shunning from subscribing, from paying to these communities. And they are using young people who are under the influence of Tujiri to be the ones to carry these bags to go and dump in the drainages. Now, once you dump garbage continuously in the drainages, it means the water that ordinarily should be flowing in these drainages is blocked. Once it's blocked, it's mixing with all this stuff, the garbage, and then it begins to change color, it builds on filthy, it attracts the flies. Before you know it, there are diseases in the communities. Similarly, the same young people that are being used are the ones that are getting this solid stuff to go and open the manholes and the dumping solid waste in the manholes. That is what is happening in Kaunda Square. Point number one. The other point is that the population of Kaunda Square, the way those houses in Kaunda Square was designed. Again, I declare interest there that I was raised in that community from my primary school days, from up to secondary school, up to tertiary, and up to the time I became a family man. I've been there. Now, what happens is that the design of that Kaunda Square is that you have 3-bedroom houses with a living room and a kitchen. That is a standard design for Kaunda Square, particularly stage 1. Now, this is a house that ordinarily is supposed to take care of a family averaging 4 or 5 people. What have the people done? They have shared, split these houses. You put a door, you close, you put concrete on a passage that takes you from the lounge to the kitchen. So you have one family staying in front, so occupying 2 rooms, 2 bedrooms and a sitting room, and they're getting rentals from there. Behind, they'll have what should have been ordinarily a kitchen and a room. They put one family there. Then at the back, they've also constructed an extension, most of which are sitting on sanitation lines. and they are collecting rental. So a house that should have been taking care of about 4, 5 people is taking care on average between 10, 15 people. Now, this obviously is overwhelming the initial design of the sanitation network for Kaunda Square. Okay? Now, what are we doing to remedy this? First of all, we said Kaunda Square is sitting at the bottom in terms of landscape. You have all the water coming from Chanama Golf Club, Mtendere, Levi Manawasa coming to settle into Kaunda Square. So when you are in this period, the rain season, you have storm water now, another problem, coming through the toilets, getting into the toilets and going into the sanitation network. Now, once our sanitation network is flooded, is overwhelmed, because storm water, rainwater is not supposed to be carried in the sanitation network. Once it's overwhelmed, the next thing that you see is the flooding, the spillage there. So we noticed that problem, and the president directed us that, can you identify, I've identified towns that are problematic in terms of sanitation challenges. Can we quickly put in emergency works and work on these? And this is way before this cholera outbreak, which started in October. So we mobilized funds using disaster management and mitigation unit. We were given 86 million thereabout, which we split among these CUs, commercial utilities, Lusaka Water, to deal with the problem in Kaunda Square. And that's what the councillor was talking about, Councillor Mirupi, that we targeted to replace 3,000 squatting toilets. The idea there was to mitigate the problem of stormwater getting into the toilets, but also avoiding this issue where when people are bathing, because they are using the same toilets as the shower rooms, when they are bathing, accidentally you have a potato sack which is used for scrubbing falling into the toilet, then it goes into the sanitation. It will not reach the sewer pond, it will get trapped and create a blockage, and the next you have a sewer spillage. So we have done that project, it has gone very well. We've replaced nearing 3,000 squatting toilets with pedestrian sitting toilets. That was it, stage number 1. Stage number 2 is now to replace the smaller pipes that were put there connecting the last manholes of Kaunda Square and going to the trunk line which goes to the sewer ponds. So we've started, one point has been worked on, and these blockages have eased up. And we are going now into Savasava. The contracting processes have been done. In the next 2 weeks, we'll be announcing a contractor who will go there to remove all that line around the Savasava and Konoso area to put a bigger pipe. And these are lasting solutions that we are providing. Now, we are not saying this is going to end the sewer blockages. For as long as our people don't change their mind, the mindset change is very important. For as long as they continue dumping solid stuffs, miala zosambila, ma potato sacks for scrubbing, and when you use people, bafana babokole wanatujirijiri kwendo tama garbage in the sewer network, then the problem will still be there. No matter how big are the pipes we can put there, if you are dumping solid stuff in the sanitation network, it will still get blocked.
Now, Honorable Minister, we understand that government is working tirelessly in addressing this pandemic, but we have seen politicians have argued that government is being reactive and not proactive in addressing the cholera issue in the country. What do you have to say about that?
We are not being reactive. Actually, to the contrary, we have been very proactive. I talked about the Iolanda shutdown. All that was meant to enhance the supply of water to the people of Lusaka. I talked about the various projects that we've been working on to ensure that we improve both sanitation and also water supply. I'll tell you, in Kanyama, which is the one of the hot spots, in Kanyama, 2 years ago, we constructed 2 water reticulation points in Makeni Villa and Garden Park. So we drilled a borehole there, a commercial borehole, beyond 120 meters depth, and then we constructed a big tank, industrial tank or commercial tank if you like, with a capacity of 350 cubic meters of water. And the same facility was put up in Garden Park area of Kanyama constituency. So 2 facilities there. And these facilities are fitted. The Kanyama Makeni Villa 1, Villa Ward, was fitted to communal points, where 12 communal points where people are accessing water. And then beyond the 12 communal points, we want to supply 3,000 households. Those that will say, I have the capacity to be connected to have water in my house or in my yard. We're going to connect them to there, and we have targeted 3,000. Now, this is a project that was birthed, constructed, and we completed it early last year. What had just delayed for us to start supplying water was that ZESCO had delayed to give us a transformer and ultimately give us power supply. So as we are talking now, that project is up and running. Go to Mtendere here in my constituency. We gave Lusaka Water 5.1 million to do an elevated, to erect an elevated tank. That again was meant to ensure that after we commissioned the Kafue Bao, one of the beneficiaries of the 50 million liters that was added to the supply after we switched on that line was the eastern region of Lusaka and western region of Lusaka. Now, we noticed that some parts of Mtendere and PHI were not receiving sufficient pressures. We released money to Lusaka Water. We've done a big tank there, and to just boost or enhance the water supply. All these measures and many more. I talked about the Chinsali water project, which we put in money quickly, commissioned. All these are being done, or were being done, long even before we knew that we were going to have this cholera outbreak during this season. All that was just meant to say that with or without cholera, people must have water. But most importantly, now that we have this problem, our people must have water as we fight this outbreak. So what have we done in terms of short-term measures as we fight this epidemic is that we have gone into the peri-urban areas where ordinarily we supply water using the water trust, where we don't have our network in Kanyama. We have a water trust. They are very proactive water trust, where people go to pay a certain amount, 20 ngwe for a container of water, I think about 20 liters container. Now, what is happening is that people go there to subscribe to get water from the water trust, but they choose to just buy water for their consumption. That is one. For other house chores like washing, cleaning of plates or kitchen utensils, they opted to use water from the shallow wells. So they will dig shallow wells and say, this water from the shallow wells, we don't use it for drinking. We just use it for washing. Now here is a problem. As you are washing there, you are using your bare hands, and your hands are getting contaminated. When you move from there, you think that your hands are clean because you are touching water. What you don't know is that you are touching contaminated water. You go and pick a fruit, wash it, maybe using this same water. What you are doing, you are just smearing germs there. And unfortunately, these germs, my dear colleagues, cannot be seen with our naked eyes. So this is where most of the people are missing it, and they are ending up contaminating their hands. If it's breastfeeding mothers, they go and touch their breasts as they are feeding the babies, and then they are passing on the germs. And this is why you've seen that in these peri-urban areas, you have high cases of diarrhea, year in, year out. And West is still now in this situation. We have a lot of children. They are the ones that are affected. If you check the statistics, those of us who've had an opportunity to be in and out of the cholera centers, you will see that the numbers that are high in admission there, it's actually the babies. It's also young people, young male, citizens. because of the groupings they are found themselves in. They eat in bus stations, in markets, in groups, and those are the groups that you begin to see being admitted. And from such groups, this disease is also being transmitted to other groups that ordinarily will not be found in those places. Yeah, so I think each one of us has a role to play, and we're grateful that His Excellency the President has said, let's bury these shallow wells. Now, again here, this directive must be understood in its correct context. Bury the shallow wells and provide alternative source of water. So what we are doing in the short term, as a short-term measure, is to bury these shallow wells permanently, but as a short-term measure in terms of water supply, we are providing water tanks. So we have targeted to provide 235 water tanks in all the peri-urban areas, and these water tanks have a capacity of 10,000 liters, and we are going to supply using the water bowsers. So we've mobilized around 10 water bowsers. We want to source more so that we can have about 20 water bowsers to go around. Now, this is a short term to just help us as we fight this outbreak, the cholera outbreak. But beyond that, we are going to drill boreholes, safer boreholes, away from the risk of contamination, and see how we can supply water in these communities.
Well, you too can also be part of the conversation by simply giving us a text message as well as calling in on the numbers on your screens, wherever you're watching us from, be it Top Star, that is channel 106, Go TV channel 25, DSTV channel 274, Facebook as well as YouTube. We are going to appreciate. And right about now, we'll take a break, and as we do that, we also get to look at a story where PF Faction Vice President Given Lubinda has voiced his displeasure with the treatment and conditions of cholera patients in Zambia. Speaking after his court appearance on 8th January 2024, Mr. Lubinda claims that certain dates are wrongly labeled as cholera related. Let's get to look at that story and we'll be back shortly.
Opposition Patriotic Front Faction Vice President Given Lubinda of the Edgar Lungu faction has expressed concern over the handling of the cholera situation in the country. Mr. Lubinda claims that many individuals have lost their lives due to cholera, and he is displeased with the conditions in which citizens suffering from the disease are being kept. He claims to have received reports of individuals whose deaths were not cholera-related but were classified as cholera deaths.
And I'm dismayed at the condition under which our people are being kept. I've also been informed about some people whose deaths are not cholera-related but are being classified as cholera. Today itself, somebody close to me was being buried at 7 hours when this person was a patient of prostate cancer, and when he was given medicine in one hospital, he developed nausea and he had diarrhea. When he went to the hospital to go and complain about the effect of the new drug, they took him to a cholera center. He was diabetic, he was denied his diet until eventually he passed on.
Mr. Lubinda has criticized President Hakainde Hichilema for prioritizing a holiday on his farm over addressing the cholera situation. He charges that President's focus should be on resolving the cholera crisis rather than fixing individuals.
Instead of him going to places to go and clean like his predecessor used to do, he is sending soldiers, belatedly for that matter, and while he himself is enjoying New Year holiday at his farm. This is the worst kind of incompetence by any president. There is no way that a president can be celebrating New Year holiday when citizens are dying because of lack of medicine, because of insufficient number of doctors. There is no way that can happen. That people are dying because of a waterborne disease. The last time we had cholera in Zambia was in 2018. We managed to stop cholera from 2018 until now, 2023-24. For 6 years, Lusaka has not recorded any cholera. Mr. Fix-It comes on the scene and cholera also comes. What is he fixing?
Earlier, Mr. Lubinda appeared before Magistrate Kawama Mafoli, where he pleaded not guilty to a charge of failing to surrender a diplomatic passport and holding more than one passport. His trial will commence on the 22nd of February 2024. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Monday. And we continue the conversation with Honorable Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation, Mike Mposho, is joining us this morning just to help us understand on how government is addressing issues related to water and sanitation in the country. And we played that clip, and I'll allow the Honorable Minister to also respond. For we know that there have also been concerns regarding this particular issue, where others have also alleged that Levi Mwanawasa treatment centers ran out of running water, and the case was the same at Hero Stadium, where also we saw stakeholders alleging that the patients are not being given food. So these are concerns that have been laid on the table. We're privileged that the Minister is in the studio to help us get a clear picture in terms of what is happening.
Well, thank you so much. Ordinarily, I wouldn't want to get into the petty discussions that Honorable Lubinda is trying to put us in, because we are at a point when we are losing lives, and it's very painful for us as government, but any other reasonable citizen, that like I said, the high numbers of the affected people are from the young groups of citizens, either the babies, the children below 15 years, but also young males who are being affected, and these are potential citizens. And when you see such categories being affected and we are losing lives, it's even just one life being lost is just too much. The multiplier effect is so much. So at this point, we must be encouraging positive conversations. You know that even when we are struggling, battling with COVID, when you had the symptoms that are similar to COVID, you'd be treated as a suspected COVID patient. This is not just being done now under the New Dawn government. This has been a practice throughout when we are fighting cholera. When you have symptoms that are related to those that you see in the cholera patient, such as diarrhea, vomiting, you treat such a patient as a suspected cholera patient. So you isolate them, observe them, conduct the test, and then the test will reveal. Unfortunately, some people will have died, and by the time the tests are coming out, whether negative or positive, that's what will tell whether they died of cholera or not. But still, that does not stop the health practitioners from isolating you and treat you as such. So to blame government, but also to say that the president was prioritizing his holiday instead of fighting cholera, I think that is really regrettable, coming from a person that was for a long time a cabinet minister. You know that ministers, the president, are entitled to annual leave, and as you go in going on leave, you have to propose much earlier. For example, we are in January 2024. All the ministers were requested late last year to indicate when they intend to proceed on leave, so that the president looks at the schedule of ministers, how they are going to proceed on leave, so that you don't kind of paralyze the system, of government. Now, even the president, you know how he's been working very hard, day and night, on various issues. He's only human. He deserves some rest. But when he saw that the numbers were escalating, the president had to cut short his leave. Similarly, I was on leave myself. My leave was supposed to end on the 11th January, and this leave was approved much early in 2023. So I was taking my second leg of my 2023 leave, and when I saw that the numbers were going up, I had to withdraw and it came back to the battlefront. So it's just really regrettable that he's trying to, be petty around such a very serious conversation. And I think that when people lose power, they must sober up. There are so many things that we can do. They are not the only ones that lost power. I will tell you. I was in foreign service myself when PF won. And everybody was withdrawn, whether you're a civil servant, you are what, everybody was fired in all the missions, withdrawn. So given Lubinda knows he's been a minister there, but to think that they're the only ones that lost jobs, lost power, and you seem to go around being bitter like ruling this country was only their preserve is really being petty. We must know that we are here today. We're not going to be here forever. We'll only play our part up to the point that God has allowed us, and then other Zambians are going to come and continue. And I think it will be wrong, even us, when our time comes to surrender, maybe as a minister, to go around and being bitter. It's always good to just appreciate God that we are given that opportunity, and then you must move on. I think it would be nice that we must have a convergent point at a time when people are dying, at a time when we need all the energies for the country. This is a point that we must hold hands and say, politics aside, what is it that we can do better? If you have noticed, I've avoided the blame game, but now that he's saying that, I want you to know that this cholera, though he's saying for 6 years we've not had the cholera, again, that's a very shallow way of thinking coming from a head of a man that I worked with for a long time, Honorable Given Luindo. An intelligent person would tell you that this cholera has been, it's not something that just started in October, boom, it has started. It has been a build-up. When you saw the direction that Honorable Garin Kombo took with the approval of Cabinet, with the approval of the President to remove the vendors in the CBD, we had seen as government that where we are going, this thing is not even a future a time bomb or problem. It was actually very close. And that's how we said, can we start gradually pushing the vendors away and begin to clean? And you saw the resistance that came up. Why? Because most of the people that are resisting now to be moved from the market, most of the people that are trading in this town center, the streets, these are people that were sympathetic to the former ruling party and were allowed for political expedience to be on the street. Okay? And because of that, this problem was building up for 3-4 years until we are where we are now. Now, that aside, I think I want to call for consensus. I want to call and appeal to the street vendors or the citizens that at this point we need to hold hands and do everything that will help us to put this outbreak under control. We cannot afford to have the numbers surging, otherwise we are going to lose more and more people. And this is where I call on the opposition that other than politicking, let's get into positive solutions, work together. When we reach a point where we'll have saved their lives, we can go back to our politics.
That's a very good call, but we have seen that the opposition themselves, we had Mr. Lubinda, who was issuing those statements, he had alluded to the fact that every time they come on board to assist government in fighting this pandemic, we have seen them getting arrested and being stopped. Sometimes if they are trying to donate, chlorine or other cholera-related materials that, the community need, they're being stopped.
You see, the problem with PF is that they don't, in any case, I don't even know now which PF I'll be talking about. So the problem with some of these people that were in government, they really don't take a time to introspect. You remember that we had the problem of load shedding in the country. And on a number of occasions, the president attempted to donate gensets to various institutions to assist in Chawama. What happened? They stopped a donation of a genset. That was PF. Now, the same things that they were doing, they think that UPND will be doing that. We have not done that. I think the only thing is that go through the normal procedure. I think I saw the correspondence that was coming back and forth with Lusaka City Council. I think when Honorable Nakachinda wrote, I think it's in public domain that the other faction, I don't want again to zero on that, but from the legal perspective, the other faction has been given the mandate, and they're the ones that are running PF. Now, when you masquerade and say, I'm a national secretary, when we know that legally speaking, until that is challenged in court, and the court decides otherwise, for now we know who is the general secretary of PF. Okay, so if they wanted, they should have gone through the normal procedure and let the right office bearer of PF as general secretary be the ones to write. But they go and use the mayor, who is also their provincial official, their provincial chair lady, and then you begin to overrule what the town clerk has done. I thought that if the mayor had a contra view, what she should have done was to tell the chief administrator of the council to say, the chief executive officer to say, hello, I think that the thinking of the council is this. Can you undo your letter and do this? But where the town clerk has written, and then we see the mayor overturning, and the deputy mayor also comes with a different position, then me, who's been deputy mayor in that office, in that institution, and later as mayor of Lusaka in that institution, I find that that puts a lot of questions in the credibility of the person at the top, because you need to put your house in order. If your town clerk has written a letter, you go in the boardroom and say, I've seen this letter, why don't you do this? You pass it on again to the town clerk to say the reasoning of the council is this, then let the town clerk be the one to write. But if you are going to have on one position 3 different letters, and Nakachinda thought he was playing very smart by now using the position of the mayor, who everybody knows that she's the chairlady of Lusaka province. So she was only doing her politics there. And this is where you must give credit to UPND. Because during PF, the way Chitangala behaved, you would have had cadres around the civic center. And I think let's give credit where it's due. During PF time, you can't do what PF members did in Petauke. And we are sober leaders. And I come from Eastern Province. And I've been in touch with what is happening on the ground. You have PF cadres in bus stops. And it's good that that incident happened, because now citizens must see what is happening. That we said no cadreism. Which cadres are in those areas? They're still PF cadres. We've stopped our cadres from being there and have complied. They are not in the markets, they are not in the bus stations. And now you have PF factions even fighting at a bus stop. A passenger who is on a bus, they stop the bus, take out the passenger, rob him and begin to abuse him and record him. Honestly, these are people who lost power and behaving like that. That level of provocation will not be tolerated. I know we are discussing cholera, but I'm putting it in the context that given Rwanda wants to bring these issues. So to the members of the public, you must see that these former leaders should not drag us into things that we are trying to correct. Let's work together. I think if they follow the normal channel, they approach government, who allow them, but to go and use this cholera outbreak to go and bring politics where we should have 2 factions fighting on the streets as to which one is PF, I think that will not be correct, because now we need all the energies to fight this outbreak.
Minister, I know you also alluded to the fact that you're taking in interventions that are going to ensure that access to water, both in rural and urban areas, the disparities that are there are actually looked at or addressed. But is there a long-term plan that is ensuring that there's also equal access to rural areas? Because the argument has been that we don't have access to clean and safe water like they have maybe in Lusaka, but when you go to Chadiza, maybe we're going to rely on a shallow well, or we're going to rely on a river. Are there any other interventions aside from sinking boreholes for such areas?
Look, thank you very much. Before I tackle that, I want to say that among the interventions that we've put in place in the hotspots, besides the water interventions that are alluded to earlier, we are also dislodging the pit latrines. We are emptying the pit latrines because, you know, as it's been raining, our fear is that if we don't empty the pit latrines, most of which are full in these hotspots, we're going to have flooding and we're going to have the fecal matter being pushed off the pit latrines, and that can really create a problem. So we've targeted to empty 20,000 pit latrines. As we speak, we've done close to 300 pit latrines. The pace at which we are emptying these pit latrines is being affected because of the adverse weather conditions. I'm using the word adverse loosely because we want the rains, we want the water anyway. Yes. Yeah, but in terms of emptying the pit latrines, we are being adversely affected, but I hope that we can push more to get towards the 20,000. In terms of long-term measures, I alluded to the fact that we are providing piped water schemes in villages, in growth centers. We are providing boreholes equipped with hand pumps in areas where the population is especially located in the rural areas. But you must understand that the shallow wells in the rural areas are totally different from the shallow wells in peri-urban areas, because here's the scenario. I mean, I'm a villager myself. I come from Mambwe in Eastern Province, but I was raised in Katete. We were drinking water from the shallow wells, but I'll tell you how we positioned our wells was very far from the pit latrines. Unfortunately, in town, in peri-urban areas, you cannot achieve the safe distance. So even the boreholes, you know, here we are not just talking about contamination in terms of just shallow wells, but also the boreholes. In these small yards, 20 by 20, 400 square meters, you are going to have a borehole there, and in one corner you are having a septic tank. All that does not guarantee you of quality water. So yes, in the rural areas there are all these long-term plans to give them boreholes, to give them piped water schemes, to give them dams, you know, to ensure that they too have quality water. And I want to tell you that the mandate of our commercial utilities in the past was only to provide water to urban and peri-urban areas. But with the coming of the new Dawn government, under my ministry now, we've actually stretched their mandate to not restrict, to not be restricted to urban and peri-urban, but to go further into rural areas. So they have to provide water in urban, peri-urban and rural areas.
Yeah, and one issue also that has been of concern is to those private companies that are involved in the water sector of penetrating these rural areas where they go with their equipment, and then you find that they don't have laboratory testing equipment. Is there any
for water?
Exactly, for water. Yes. Are there any measures that are being put in place in terms of collaborating with the private sector and ensuring that SDG number 6 is actualized?
Yes, actually, the testing of water in the past was so centralized. I think there was only one institution, UNZA, which was doing the testing. But I want to tell you that you're able to test water now in various points, and that has kind of helped. And in the long term, I think we want to make sure that all the provincial centers have the testing laboratory. I think that will help us to ensure that the quality of water being supplied is improved as envisaged under SDG number 6, because routine testing of water is very, very important, so that even at household level, not only the water that we are supplying as a sector through our commercial utilities, but even at household level, on your own, you can check the water you have in your borehole, get a bottle, go to University of Zambia, have it tested, then you'll be able to, from time to time, it's better to do that every 6 months. If you can do it once per quarter, it's okay, but even once after 6 months, it's okay, so that you are very sure about the kind of water you are consuming. So for Lusaka, we are fortunate. We have the testing laboratories near us, but in the long term, the desire is to ensure that each provincial center has a testing laboratory.
Honorable Ministers, we come to the conclusion of our breakfast show this morning. We understand that addressing water and sanitation challenge is critical to Zambia's health and development. What message do you have for our viewers there, especially those in township like Chawama and other compounds that are usually affected with this pandemic, cholera pandemic?
Thank you. I want to assure our good people in most of the peri-urban areas that your government is concerned about your welfare and will do everything possible to ensure that in the long term we put measures that will enhance water supply, we put measures that will ensure that we improve the sanitation situation in the peri-urban areas. Like you heard from the President, there were two key pronouncements there, other than the one on burying the shallow wells, but there was also a call for us to have a very holistic and robust plans to reorganize or realign most of these peri-urban areas. One, to help us deal with the issues of perennial flooding. Two, to also ensure that the issue of drainages are properly realigned, because most of these peri-urban areas had their plots or set up being orchestrated by politicians, by cadres, so there was no the component of proper planning from the right authorities. So you find that even to get to your house, you have to be, you can't even have a car to drive to your house in some of these peri-urban areas. You have to pass through other people's yards to access maybe 3-4 houses to get to your house. That is not a normal situation. So in thinking of a robust plan to or way of replanning these peri-urban areas, we have to demolish some of the structures so that we can realign the passage, the roads getting into these communities and through these communities. And as you create these roads, you are going to also have an opportunity to realign the drainages so that when we are in this season, the rain season, the water must be allowed to flow without having to flood homes. But also, in doing that, we are going to create space where we can run our water reticulation system or network, but also we can run our sewer network and create a place where ultimately we can collect the sewer from the communities. That way, we will have resolved most of these problems. It's a huge, it's a mammoth task, but we have to undertake. It has to start now in order to save the future generation. We can't leave this as a business as usual. We can't allow the future generation to come and find the problem that was created by the past teams. I think we need the support of all the stakeholders in these communities. We need the support of the opposition parties. We need the support of the church. We need the support of the media to achieve this. In the long term, it will be done. Look at the other countries. For example, you go to Nairobi, the problem of traffic there, they had to come up with those highways. It just had to start with a decision and say, there's too much traffic, what do we do? Let's lift the traffic there. So, a decision was made, they moved with it for years, and now you have an option. When you are driving in Nairobi, you can pay a bit more to drive up there in the highways and beat the traffic, you know. So similarly here, we need to make those decisions. I'm just using the traffic highway as an example, but in terms of sanitation, in terms of drainages, but most importantly, to just also appeal to the people that the issue of dumping waste in undesignated areas, you can blame government, you can blame the councils, but when there's a disease like this, we can blame each other, but at the end of the day, people are dying. And are dying because someone chose to continuously misbehave by dumping waste in places where you should have not been dumping waste. Because someone chose that I don't want to pay 20 ngwe per container, I'm going to dig a shallow well and hide it in my yard. and you are going to have your children, you are going to have your neighbors' children die. When this outbreak comes, even one who is innocent will be affected. Then, walking into the streets of Kanyama and some of these hotspots, it's as if people are not aware that there's this problem. We are spending 1 hour, 30 minutes here on TV talking about this. We are all over in this, and you, the media, you are playing the right role to roll out this message. But when you go to Kanyama, children are eating mangoes, walking in these dirty waters like there's nothing that is happening. I think it's those, such attitudes that are not helping us win this fight in good time. Because if each one of us, in the citizens there, just play a role and say, look, there's cholera, stop playing in the dirty waters, let's clean our environment, let's make sure that we disinfect, there are no flies. I can tell you within a short space of time, we'll be able to win the fight. So I want to call on everyone to play a role and ensure that we save lives.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for choosing to have breakfast with Camnet TV on a Monday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We've been having a conversation with Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Mike Imposho, who's also a Munali Member of Parliament, but we'd like to put it on record that he was coming to the studios as Minister of the entire country, and it's good that we are discussing issues addressing water sanitation issues in the country, and we do understand that you also picked one or two things in terms of what is being done to address the situation in the country and ensure that we also remain safe from the outbreak of cholera, because remember, a country's wealth is dependent on your health. It has been Nelson Zul as well as Miriam Kaiman. This is Wakoi today.